I think the words air raid kind of create a misconception or a poor perception of what we want to do offensively. We're going to be more diverse maybe than we've been here, and we want to throw the ball probably more effectively, maybe even more rep-wise than we've done. But you really want to be effective at both. And I'd be an idiot not to run the football here with the backfield that we have and the offensive line that we have. The offense has not changed other than upgrades that we make each year in over 20 years. You know, I often liken it to you have a Ferrari in the race, and every year you just try to find a way to improve the tires or jack up the engine or shave down the car a little bit lighter so it's faster. But you're trying to take this vehicle that you have, which is our offense, and make it run and work better than it did the year before. And that in a nutshell is our approach to the system. But the potential for the offense is really dictated by the strength that we have. You know, last year at North Carolina, we had 3 tight ends that could play. I think we're 4th in the nation in catches at tight end. We're 5th in the nation in yardage, and we're 10th in the nation in tight end touchdowns. Well, we weren't that 2 years ago and 3 years ago because we didn't have those tight ends. So we had them last year, and so they are a bigger part of the emphasis. If we have a quarterback that can run option, we'll run option. If option is a part of the offense, if we don't have a guy that can do that, it won't be. But I think if you look back over the last 12 years, we probably run the ball as much as we've thrown it. We just want to be able to do whatever it is the defense is going to give us, if that helps answer your question.
Since you got here, there's several highly regarded quarterbacks that got on board. Just in general, why do quarterbacks want to play in your offense? What is it that attracts some of these top quarterbacks to want to be a part of this?
Well, I mean, it's a quarterback-driven system, you know, and so everything starts with the quarterback in any offense, but this one really is predicated on the decision-making that goes on at that position. And then, you know, in our mind, philosophically, the quarterback needs to be a tremendous distributor of the football. So what we're trying to do is we want to recruit these weapons, these tight ends, these running backs, and these receivers. And then we got to coach our quarterback up on how to make good decisions pre-snap so we can get the ball to all of these guys. You don't ever want to have to coach a running back on that side of the line of scrimmage, right? So we want to win the line of scrimmage and beat the line of scrimmage with the run game, and then let that athlete go be the athlete that you recruited him to be. Same thing with the receivers. We want them to run routes and catch the football and make prolific plays in space. And we're going to utilize our tight end in both aspects, both in the run game and in the pass game. So when we're giving the ball out to these skilled kids, which I refer to weapons all the time because that's what they are, the quarterback's got to be able to make great decisions pre and post snap, and we want him to distribute the ball. Balance to us is not 40 runs and 40 passes. Balance to us is distribution of the football to all of the weapons that we have in the offense. Here, we've got 2 really good ones, and we've got a really good running back room. So they're going to be a big part of those touches. All we want to do is increase how effective we can be in the passing game so that defenses have to defend the full field and all 5 skilled players. That's really the goal of the air raid here at Wisconsin, if that helps, okay? Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued by your journey. I mean, 7 years ago you were at FCS and you started in high school like 23 years ago. Did you expect any of this? I mean, to be Power 5?
I mean, I think this is the goal of every football coach, is to be able to coach college players at the highest level. I don't know how much the NFL interests me. I love the college game. NIL and the portal has definitely changed the college game in the last 2 years, but I love college football. And so to be able to do it at the highest level was my dream, and I think it's the dream of any coach that does it. But, you know, probably for me, I think making the place that I'm at the place to be all the time. Like, the focus right now is on Wisconsin, and that's it. And it's on our opening game, and that's it. I know a lot about Buffalo. I don't know about game 2, because that doesn't matter until we win the first one. And so the priority right now, we haven't even talked X's and O's because the priority right now is recruiting. So that's the focus. But my journey has been fun. I used to think, if I'm being transparent, I used to think that when you were younger, bouncing around looked bad, like you couldn't keep a job. You know what I mean? You're young, you think you know everything, you don't really know anything, and I thought it looked bad, but now when I look back at it, I really wouldn't change anything because I've been places where we lined the field. You know, I was talking to Mike Tressel about that. We've done laundry, we've lined the field, I mean, you name it. We've lived out of a cardboard box to just get done what we had to get done at some of the smaller schools. And now when I look back, I appreciate being at all those places because you learn how to be successful with a lot less. And now here we have so many resources, both manpower and talent and facilities and all that. And so, not that this job is easy, but I get to coach football and recruit. And that's hard enough. And then anything else that Luke Fickell says to get done. And so, and we get to do it with the best athletes in the country. So the journey's been fun. It's been multiple. People say, where you're from. I say, it depends on what year you're asking me about. But I love where I am right now. If I wound up at Wisconsin and retired in 10 years, I'd be thrilled. It's been an absolute wild ride for me.
What was the Leach Clinic, and is that kind of a game changer in your career, would you say?
Yeah, that was. It was. I met him between the 96 and 97 seasons. I drove down in my 4Runner and I just slept in the car and I snuck showers in the locker room, and I spent 2 days with Mike in practices and in meetings. And up until that point, probably, I thought I was the expert and I knew everything, and I had my playbook from college, and when I met him, it hit me. This makes more sense to me than some of the things I was talking to other coaches about. I figured if I could learn it, then I could teach it to somebody else. And really, that's been my philosophy, and that's been the approach I've taken ever since. And so, it was a tough thing when he passed, because he's been very instrumental, one, in my career. He's been impactful with regards to my X's and O's, and he became a good friend, so I will miss him this season.
You mentioned NIL and portal. It's obvious what that has given the players, freedom, opportunity. From a coach's perspective, how has it changed how you guys have to operate?
Well, I feel bad for head coaches right now because you've got some head coaches out there that are coordinating the offense and the defense. Now you've got to add NIL and managing all that. You have to add the portal, and what the portal does is not only do you have to recruit freshmen, incoming seniors to be your freshmen, but you've got to recruit your roster every day. And we probably have to coach guys different, and we got to handle the roster different, and you got to recruit those guys throughout the season, so it's not just football anymore. And now you have to recruit the portal, so it's really become threefold as opposed to being just let's go grab these good seniors, bring them in, and build this program. It's become threefold, which obviously is a lot more challenging now than it was 2 years ago.
Colt Bartholomew here from Wisconsin.
Good to meet you, Colt.
You too. You mentioned right now just talking about recruiting the portal, and obviously you got a couple of guys coming in this year at the quarterback position. How do you approach that, where you've got guys that have started to learn a college system, or in one case, a lot of years in the college system, and then kind of adapt it to what you want to do? Like, how do you kind of look at what they do and have done, and adapt it to what you think they can do for you?
So I don't know that the approach with the quarterbacks really is any different than it is when you're trying to evaluate all the talent that you have on the offensive side of the roster. Sam Howell was a very downhill, north-south minded runner. We did some things in the run game and with the way we taught scrambles to try to facilitate what he did well. And very differently was Drake May, who came by afterwards, really, really good laterally, and extended plays well behind the line of scrimmage. Both of them were really, really smart. Both of them were really accurate, very talented passers. But their stature, their body shape, the things that they were capable of doing were different. So you kind of steer your system in the direction of where the talent takes you. And I think that's true with the skill guys. It's true depending on what do we want to run up front? Well, what can we block up front? And then that's kind of the way we'll go. And it's really no different with the quarterbacks. Graham Mertz was here. He's a perfect example of, I'd still be coaching Graham, who I recruited coming out of high school, if we didn't have the portal. But the portal existed, and he took another opportunity, and it forced us to have to go and recruit some other quarterbacks, which obviously we're excited about having. One I can mention and one I can't right now, but we are in the process of transforming that room I don't know if every room on this team though needs transformation. We got to continue to do a good job of recruiting and building on what we already have here. There's a very good nucleus, as you all well know, here at Wisconsin. So this was an easy, no-brainer decision to come here because of what already exists in the program.
Well, Phil, Wisconsin's always been able to recruit offensive line and running back for the last 30 years or so.
Yeah.
Wide receivers not necessarily been like high-level guys. Do you think you're going to be able to do that now with this type of offense and the type of quarterbacks you're bringing in?
Yeah, no question. I mean, one, the perception is there's no good receivers here, and that's not true. There's actually some talented receivers here. They haven't necessarily been asked to run a lot of routes and catch a lot of balls and be as big a part of the offense as they might be now. You get what you emphasize. We emphasized here in the past building it big up front, running it downhill, having a big backfield, being physical. Those are things I think you need to win a championship no matter what offense you're in. So that part of this isn't going to change. We're just going to do it a little differently, that's all. And I think there'll be much more involvement with the receivers that are here. So I think they'll be given an opportunity to do more just because of the nature of the offense. And I think it'll help us recruit guys at the quarterback position, at the tight end position that maybe are a little bit closer to being a hybrid type tight end. And it'll help us recruit receivers because those guys want to do what we do in the offense. And so I guess that remains to be seen, but that's the way it's been just about everywhere, and I wouldn't expect it to be any differently here. The product that is Wisconsin football is still the same great product. So all we're doing is adding something that might entice them to want to come here and run a route or two.
But you don't sense the identity necessarily of the offense doesn't change, just different wrinkles or what?
I'd say the identity will change. I mean, it is a different offense, but in terms of not emphasizing the running game, that's not going to happen. That'll be as big a part of our offense as throwing the football.
One quarterback that you can talk about that's a new addition is Nick Evers.
Yeah.
What stood out about his skill set? How do you see him fitting into what you'd like to
So
do?
Nick is a guy I evaluated and got to watch live in practice and in games prior to him signing. And what he brings is he's a very good athlete. He's longer, taller. I think you've got to have some length at this position and some height because of the nature of how big our offensive linemen are. Height has never been a big issue for me, but these guys are incredibly tall. We've got a number of 6'8", 6'7" guys, and I don't see that changing. We'll continue to recruit big, but you've got to be able to see above and around these guys, and to do that, and that's what some of the guys that we're recruiting have. Sam Howell was 6'1", probably would be a little bit more difficult throwing behind this line than it was the line that we had at North Carolina. And there's ways to get around that, and there's ways to manage that, but I don't see any of that changing. I just think Nick Evers is a tall, long, rangy, athletic quarterback who already has some time invested in the college game and also in a very like offense. So it just made sense, and he's a good fit here.
Just looking at the numbers from North Carolina, it appeared at North Carolina y'all threw the ball more this past year than maybe you had the year before, where you ran more than you threw the year before. Just a matter of adjusting to the talent you had, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect example of what I was saying. The first year that I got to North Carolina, we had probably our least talented team, and we were probably the most balanced. We had some talented running backs, we had some talented receivers, we had a true freshman starting quarterback. We were probably the most balanced that year. We wound up having two very elite running backs in Javonte and Michael Carter. They both rushed in 2020 for 1,000 yards, and they were a huge part of our system in the run game. We led the ACC in rushing, I think 2 of the years that we were there. This year, we had a very young running back room. They're talented. They're going to be very, very good. You'll see and hear those names a lot in the next couple of years. But we were young and not quite ready for one guy to take the bull by the horns in the running back room. And so our running game existed enough to be effective, but we were extremely talented at receiver and at tight end and at quarterback. And the character of the offense this year was it just lent to throwing the ball more. And so we did. I use Sam Houston State as a great example. 3 years at Sam Houston State. The first year we rushed for 3,800 yards or so, over 40 rushing touchdowns. The second year we ran for, 3,700 yards and over 40 rushing touchdowns. The third year we threw the ball for 5,257 touchdowns, and it was the same team, the same offense. The emphasis just changed because the talent base changed. And then sometimes the emphasis also changes because what the defense chooses to do is different. 2020 at Wake Forest, I told this to Michael yesterday. At Wake Forest, Sam threw for 550 yards in the game. We had 700 yards in offense, and we won 50-something to 50-something. 3 weeks later, we're playing one of the better defenses in the league at Miami, and they tried to really drop 8 and play coverage and take RPOs away and take the deep ball game away, and the running backs ran the ball for 550 yards. And that was 3 weeks after, the throw game. So it really just comes down to what the defense chooses to take away, and, it gets dictated by the strength of our skill players. And you're going to hear me say that for the next 5 years. I mean, that's what we do.
Two-parter for you, kind of
Sure.
way back again. So if I'm doing the math right, you had 1 year at Parsippany before the Leach meeting. Does that sound right?
Yeah, 1 or 2. It's 90 after 96 or after 97, but yeah, it's a while ago.
Just curious, what you were writing before that, was it anything similar to Air Raid, or?
The stuff we ran there was more Joe Tiller driven from Purdue. I thought that the quarterback that we had at the time was very similar to Drew Brees, as I also think Sam Howell was very similar to Drew Brees. And I tried to find an offense that utilized a quarterback that was like ours. And so a lot of that was driven from the stuff that I got from Purdue at the time. And we were and we were running some of the BYU West Coast stuff. And that was really all that I knew and all that we did, because we ran the West Coast stuff in college. So those are the two things I was familiar and interested in, and that's what we did until I met Mike, and then everything kind of changed after that.
And then, got out of Rowan in 91, right?
Yes, sir.
And you started at Parsippany in 96. What would you be? Were you an assistant coach somewhere?
Oh, I coached at Jersey City State College for a season. I coached at a JUCO for a season. I went to Orange High School for a season, and then I got the job at Parsippany Hills.
So you knew you wanted to be a coach right out of college?
I did. My junior year, I got hurt, so I was out. And John Bunning, who was my head coach, who played at the Eagles for Dick Vermeil and was, ironically, the head coach at North Carolina for 6 years, just got me involved in recruiting and the X's and O's and football. And I kind of was just a student coach that year. And I think when I had the opportunity to do that, I pretty much knew and decided that this was going to be what I wanted to do as a career. Yeah.
Do you sense a pretty high level of excitement just in your first month being here about what people think is possible for this offense and the momentum that seems to be building with this new staff?
I hope so. I sense the excitement with our players, which is really all that I care about. I think if the players are excited about it, they got a chance to be successful at it. And so if we're scoring, then everybody else should be excited about it. So it kind of works that way, right? So they're ready to, I was really happy they went and represented themselves in the bowl game the way they did. They played good physical football on both sides of the ball, and they won a bowl game. They finished the season the right way. And when I met them, I said, do yourselves a favor. I said, I appreciate that they're looking forward to getting into the next era or the next chapter. But don't forget, we got a job to do, and that's to represent Wisconsin in the bowl game, and they did a great job. And so now, talking with them all, I think they're all excited about putting a new offense in and moving forward, and probably no more excited than I am. Yeah.
So do you sense any trepidation just because of the amount of change that maybe they conceived, like you mentioned before, like the perception of air raid versus what they've been doing before?
Zero.
No, okay.
No, I'm very confident what we're going to do. I think there's talent here to do it. And we're just going to let what they do well dictate where we go with it. Definitely.
You've been at different places where you've brought in a new offense. How long in general does it take you before your new guys get comfortable with it?
That's a great question. So when we went to Sam Houston State, they were in the triple option with Willie Fritz. Okay. And that offense had taken them to the Final Four and the national championship game. So they had a lot of confidence and a lot of success in that system. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you could be any different than what we're doing. Yeah. But we went 12-4, finished in the Final Four, and led our team, our conference offensively, won the conference. and that was the very next year. And so, and that's kind of been. We'll install the entire offense in 4 days in spring ball. Days 5 through 8, we'll reinstall it, and then we'll work on polishing that product and working on special situations and situational football the second half of spring ball. And then the summer will be spent really trying to get very, very instinctive and very good at what we do. And then it's our job in camp to be ready for Buffalo on opening day.
Phil, Jacob Rossi from the Wisconsin State Journal.
Yep, how are you, sir?
Good, how you doing? As I say, with in terms of recruiting now, I know with the transfer portal, with the signing day in February coming up, in just a few weeks, after assessing the roster and just what you've seen so far, what you're seeing on paper or even on film, are there any particular positions of which you're looking for to recruit further, before signing day coming up?
I think speaking more directly to the offensive side, you can't ever have enough good O-linemen. So we're always, whether it's portal or freshman, we're always looking to get bigger and better in the O-line room. So that will never change. So I don't know what, the situation here is really good. You're always going to try to recruit to continue to get better. The tight end room, I know we have some injuries in that room. We got guys coming back. I'm excited to see them get back. We have guys that are going to graduate after this year. So what you do from a positional standpoint is assess who's here this year, who are we actually going to have next year, who do we need to develop, and who's already ready to play. And then from that, you develop a kind of a thought for what your real needs are. And then we try to recruit to those needs. But at the end of the day, we're going to try to bring in as many great athletes as we can here, and then we'll let where our strengths are athletically kind of lead us offensively. And so I don't mean to give you a generic answer. I think we want to we want more numbers in the receiver room so we don't wear out 8 guys. We'd rather carry 11 or 12 so we can keep them fresh as the season goes on. Thrilled with where the running back room is. Want to just continue to maintain the tradition of bringing in great ones. And then the quarterback room I thought was the room that needed the most work in terms of numbers because of Graham's departure, and we have some youth in there, and so that was the room I thought that needed to be addressed immediately, and so we've tried to do that here in the last couple weeks.
Can you describe how you think your offense challenges defense in terms of the passing game with the wide receivers, or what you would anticipate at Wisconsin in that regard?
Philosophically, what you want to do is we really want to line up sideline to sideline, and then we want to stretch and threaten the defense vertically. Because in a perfect world, you'd like to get all 11 defenders spread out throughout the field as far away from each other as possible, which creates the most space. And then if we do a good job recruiting, we want to get the ball to those guys, whether you're handing it to them, pitching it to them, screening it to them, throwing it to them. You get great athletes to football in space, and then we get to watch them the way you do. We don't have to coach it. If we have to coach guys after they have the football, we got the wrong guys. So you want to get the guys the ball to guys that are exceptional in open space. And then to be able to do that, you need change of direction, you need speed. And so I think that's ultimately that's the philosophy going in every season. It's to stretch them horizontally pre-snap, stretch them vertically post-snap, and then let's find ways of getting them to football so that we can watch athletes go be athletes.
I know you talked about this previously, but your relationship with Luke, big reason why you're here. Just how did that start, and how would you characterize you guys?
Well, I actually met Luke personally, face to face, in an interview. So when he became the head coach at Cincinnati, I interviewed with him about the offense coordinator job there, and he gave me an opportunity to be the offense coordinator there. And at the time, I wound up going to Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, and I enjoyed my time, and we had a wild ride there, and coached some of the greatest players I've ever been around, and DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, and a slew of them. But it bothered me a little bit, being truthful. When you first meet someone, you have that initial instinct about them. I trust my instincts. I really liked Luke. Even though I didn't take the job at Cincinnati, he and I stayed in touch and developed a friendship. We got together every year in the summer and talked ball, kind of like on a vacation clinic that I've been running, and we just got to know each other, and you build a relationship. And I think we found that I felt like it was a mistake not working with him. So when I had the opportunity to come and work with him this time, I wasn't going to pass it up. And then on top of that, it's at Wisconsin of all places, so it's just a double positive for me. So to be able to come to the Big Ten and coach at Wisconsin and do it side by side with Luke Fickell and the rest of the guys he's hired, it's a no-brainer for me.
What made you turn it down the first time, just SEC versus?
I mean, yeah, it was just such a great opportunity. You know, the Big Ten and the SEC, in my opinion, represent some of the best college football in the nation. And so to have an opportunity after we were at Sam Houston State to go to the SEC and do that, it was exciting. And we wanted to go see if we could do this thing at the highest level. And we had a lot of fun doing it. But I told my wife, Tanya, I said, if I have another opportunity to take a job with Luke, I would probably do it. Now, if he was at John Doe High School down the street, it probably wouldn't have happened, right? But for him to give me another opportunity and with an even better relationship maybe than we had the first time, and at a place like this, it's an easy decision. And I say that real quick. I say that with a very heavy heart in leaving North Carolina because I have great relationships there and we had a really good run over the past 4 years. So it wasn't easy leaving North Carolina.
You said you enjoyed the Ole Miss experience too. It was just
Loved
that you
it.
had that relationship. You thought there was a good relationship with Luke.
Yeah, I just felt like that was something I would have enjoyed doing. So when it happened a second time around, I wanted to jump on it. Absolutely.